Good morning, good evening, namaskar. I think we've got audience from all over the world, so I have to use all the three words here. And my name is Neeraj Charan, and I'm a 1976-1980 batch electronics communication engineering, and it's my privilege today to welcome all of you to this excellent webinar. And we've got three very distinguished speakers come on board and share the conversation. And I'll take a minute to just share some of the BITOSA thing that we've been doing worldwide. That's the reason we are here today. Over 100,000 alumni so far. We've got over 24,000 people on the database, on websites, email, WhatsApp. We've got over 10,000 people on Facebook. We've got about 5,000 people on LinkedIn. We have 8 registered chapters globally right now, and we are 12 in the making. So by the time we finish this year, we will be looking at about 20 registered chapters. So I take the opportunity to all of you to please come and join this great alumni fraternity that we have. And 39 years and 6 months, and I feel far more nostalgic, far more committed, far more memorable things about BIT Mesra. So that's the kind of feeling we have. It gets stronger like wine. So thank you for letting me speak a few minutes on this. Before I hand over to Aloke Basu, who is the moderator for today's conversation, this one question that all of us always been asked. Yeah, what makes you guys so special and so different and so high performance? And I have tried to figure out. We've always stood up, we've always leveraged our resources, we've been very innovative, we've been very jugarbad, and we have delivered high performance with the resources we have. And that makes BIT guys very, very special in every walk of life, everywhere. And before I give it to Alok to continue your start of the evening, मुझे एक दो line का with your permission एक poetry याद आ रहा. May I say that? So
yes, please.
It's like, someone said, yeah, you guys are so crazy. You guys do such wonderful work. And, how do you guys do it? And this guy turns around and said to the other gentleman who was asking this question that, तुम सोच रहे हो बादलों की उड़ानों तक, तुम सोच रहे हो बादलों की उड़ानों तक, हमारी तो निगाहें हैं सूरज के ठिकानों तक. So that's the spirit of being BITOSA. So guys, welcome again. I'll come back to you at the end of the session. Aloke is a 1984 mechanical graduate from BIT Mesra. He's got 30 years of experience in the United States with all the corporates, Microsoft, Google, Cisco, Motorola. He's an avid traveler. He's an authority in supply chain IT systems, and he's a great analyst on investments. I know you play some instruments as well, but that's a subject for another day. So with this, thank you guys for coming on board. Please come on board the platform of BITOSA Global. That's why we are here. And Aloke Basu, your start of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you who have joined from different global locations and time zones to this BITOSA Global webinar, Future of Real Estate, Logistics, and Emerging Technologies. Thanks for joining, and this is your host and moderator, Aloke Basu. Well, we are indeed going through a very difficult situation. I hope all of you and your loved ones are safe and following the policies given by the respective governments and the local authorities about keeping safe distance and following the sanitization norms, etc. Please be safe. That's the important thing. Well, today we have a very jam-packed session. Let's jump into the topic straight away. Digitization is the current buzzword, which is driving most growth opportunities in industries as diverse as real estate, automotive, and logistics. Companies all over are building business models based on mega trends that are built on digital platforms where end users and their needs for higher effectiveness and efficiency of products, services, whatever, can be addressed adequately. To further expedite the construction of these digital business models, artificial intelligence, machine learning technologies are being applied in the widest cross-section of industries. And these are creating unique synergies and partnership between disparate industry verticals. This is fostering cooperation and partnerships that are reshaping the global industrial landscape. But today, we are fortunate to have amongst us the industry leaders, the very distinguished alumni of Birla Institute of Technology, Master Ranchi. Please welcome Dr. Sanjay, Rishi, Sandeep Kar, and Pawan Bhageria as they share their perspectives on how digitization is creating growth opportunities for both companies and their associates in this brave new world. The first speaker is Dr. Sanjay Rishi. You know, he's the CEO, Corporate Solutions America at JLL, a world leader in real estate services. He's of the 7983 batch and is based out of Chicago, United States of America. Over to you, Dr. Rishi.
Thank you, Alok. Very happy to join this august group, especially particularly happy that my friend and batchmate, Pawan Bhageria, is on this. And I've heard so much about Sandeep. He and I actually spoke at a conference not too long ago. So appreciate you guys inviting me. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all of you. It truly is a pleasure to talk to BITians. It always is. I hope you and your families are navigating, like Alok said, and Neeraj said, these crazy, unprecedented times well, and you're safe. Listen, I'm going to do this quickly in about 10 minutes. I'll spend my time to share with you an industry that I am particularly passionate about, no surprise to you. As you probably know, I spend most of my career leading global technology, digital-enabled transformations across industries, really. And I was new to this industry till I joined JLL about 2 years ago. Listen, this domain, this industry is exciting, invigorating, and it's entrepreneurial like few others I have seen. And it's gotten even more relevant at the top of the house, on the top of the minds of CEOs and CFOs, CHROs, as I speak to them every day, every other day, as they battle COVID, it's become even more relevant. The domain, the industry, is in the midst of a digital transformation that will change the face of the entire industry, not unlike many other industries before it, in a matter of just a few short years, I believe, we believe. So my comments today will reflect, I want to just make sure I set the stage, reflect the business that I have the privilege to lead. It's end-to-end corporate real estate needs of large global corporations. So think Fortune 500, Russell 2000, and it's everything from finding space for them to building out those spaces, occupying, operating those spaces for them, and just as importantly, curating and creating experiences that include digital, health, wellness, safety, environment, equipment, maintenance, the list goes on. If we could go to the next slide, please, Sandeep. Let me first start with the topics that are top of mind today. If you look at this slide, there's a lot of conversations about work from home and the real estate demand, et cetera. And you've asked about these too. So what happens to corporate real estate demand in light of experiences from home, pre, post, vaccine impacts, et cetera? What happens to the portfolio of my client, our clients, offices, warehouses, distribution centers, manufacturing facilities, et cetera? And we do think that the conversation is a little too simplistic. If we go to the next slide, please, Sandeep. The perceptions about productivity over the last few months sure have changed. And while there are so many unknowns, there clearly are, as we continue to battle a pandemic of unparalleled proportions, we believe that the current conversation is indeed simplistic. And here's why. We're human beings. We're at the core. We are resilient. We thrive through interactions. Things like brand, culture, innovation, creativity. These are all fed by face-to-face interactions. If we go to the next slide, workflows, workforce, workplace, all of these buildings, portfolios, all start to change. undoubtedly, there's going to be a lasting shift to more work from home, but there may be a near-term impact. The longer-term impact, however, we think will balance out. The demand for de-densification, for job growth, for the core need of human beings to get into workspaces is going to drive demand, and it really changes the face of this industry. So in a nutshell, while we should expect some near-term impact, we believe we'll see accelerating demand as we come out of COVID and things will start to balance out. I will make a quick comment on office versus warehouse distribution centers. We're seeing an extremely high demand around warehouses and distribution centers as e-retail, just as one example, ramps up to keep up with the growth and the demand. And the last mile locations, for those of you that are following this industry, is seeing particular increase. If we just go to the next slide real quickly. So let me just pause on kind of the world and the world as we see it, but then switch a bit to workspaces and our experiences. I've noticed this since I joined this industry. Experience is everything. It is in our everyday lives, but here in particular, as we go into the offices, listen, how much time do we spend in our offices? 10 hours, 12 hours out of a waking 16, 18 hours, if that. So we spend a predominant amount of our times in offices, and experience is everything. If we go to the next slide, I'll give you a little bit of an idea of the kinds of things that are happening in the industry. So flexibility, mobility, no different than everything else. This idea of me spaces and we spaces, and especially post-COVID, this definition of we spaces is going to change. Co-working is going to have its own and has seen its own impact. But even we spaces in our offices with social distancing, what are the implications? Design implications to offices, to conference rooms, health and wellness. It's never been on top of mind of people and clients as we look at it. Air quality, ventilation. If Rishi is on, he's an expert around air quality. My colleague from BIT and a close friend, he probably did this already with this group. But thermal comfort, touchless technologies, all of these are here to stay. Hospitality, it's something new to this industry, and it's extremely, extremely important. If we just keep going to the next slide, digitization, Alok mentioned this in the beginning. I mean, digitization is transformed, it's the buzzword, but it's reality. Of this domain in particular, it's comprehensive, it touches the entire value chain. And there were some questions, so I'm going to spend just a minute on this. This industry, if you think about it, has access to a wealth of data, just a wealth of data. Valuations of properties, historical data, macro, micro economic indicators, industry trends, access to talent, occupancy, and data on utilization of workspaces. How much am I utilizing all this money that I'm spending on workspaces? IoT, edge devices, sensors, predictive maintenance of equipment, health, wellness data. There's just so much data. The opportunity to apply machine learning, artificial intelligence to drive insights across this entire value chain, that is the center of tremendous amount of investment already. Just as an example, we at JLL alone, we committed $100 million to our Spark Fund just to begin with, to invest in startups. Bringing together digital capabilities to completely transform experiences of individuals from the everyday room reservations, integrations to public transformation, use of blockchain to complete transactions. I mean, there's millions of transactions that happen in this industry. I mean, do you see why I'm excited about the opportunity that this industry provides? If you just go to the next slide, and I'm getting ready to wrap up, but I will close by just talking about the value of this domain. I mean, traditionally, corporate real estate's been seen as a cost line item, but everything else, including financials, there's just a recognition across our clients and in this industry, the extraordinary value of effective workplace experience. It lies in talent acquisition. It lies in retention. if you just go quickly to the next slide, maybe. This is about happiness in the workplace. Just retaining talent, and engaged, comfortable, safe, happy workforce, and the contribution to innovation, to creativity is tremendous. So if you haven't figured this out already, I am very excited. I'd love to listen to my other colleagues and take any questions you might have. Thanks. Back to you, Alok.
Thank you, Sanjay. It was really very insightful and very informative. I know the time was very short. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next segment on how digitization is shaping the world of logistics, telematics, fleet management, commercial vehicles, online, offline booking, who else is better than walking us through all this other than Sandeep Kar of 1996-2000 batch of Birla Institute of Technology. Here is the Chief Strategy Officer at Fleet Complete, Toronto, Canada. Over to you, Sandeep.
Thanks, Alok. Fascinating stuff, Sanjay, by the way, and it kind of jives into what I'm about to say. If, as important as real estate is, another very important part of global economy right now, and has always been, is commercial vehicles. If today all the passenger vehicles in this planet disappeared, life will still go on. But if trucks stop operating, everything comes to a standstill, because trade, commerce, everything has an impact. And trucks have an impact on these. So what I'm going to talk about today are 8 transformational shifts that are happening in the commercial vehicle industry, and how that is being driven by digital transformation. Urban trucking is the first mega trend or transformational shift that is happening. Global population right now is about 7 billion people. 3.5 billion people live in cities or urban areas. 3.5 billion people live in villages or rural areas. By 2050, global population is going to reach 10 billion people, and 7 billion people will live in cities, which means doubling of the current amount. And that is changing everything we know about everything. And just to give you an example, in 2011, about $11.8 trillion worth of retail transactions happened, right? Of which 5% were e-commerce enabled or online transactions. That was about 0.55 trillion. In the next 5 years, that's going to almost more than double to 23 trillion, of which $4.3 trillion worth of online commerce will take place. Nowhere is it more profound than in the US. The first time in the history of the United States, you can see in the right-hand side bar, the share of brick and mortar actually fell behind online sales. Online sales, not including auto and food retail, overtook brick and mortar sales. Now, this has been transformational in many ways, because what it really means is the moment you buy something on an online platform, and all of us in this call, I'm guessing, has purchased something or the other on an e-commerce platform, it comes with a promise. And that promise is you can now track your freight. You would know now when that freight will be delivered. Hence, tracking that vehicle that carries that freight has become that much more important. And this is creating a completely new kind of demand for commercial vehicles. City trucks, trucks that operate in urban areas, delivering freight in urban areas, trucks that travel in extremely dense, congested spaces, noise regulations, emission regulations, parking regulations. These are the kind of regulations they have to navigate through. So commercial vehicle manufacturers all around the world are taking note and redesigning vehicles to operate in these kind of conditions. Freight digitization. And this is another very important part. And in fact, I know one BITN who has started a kind of an early stage company in that space. Freight digitization essentially means finding freight when there was no freight. So for example, a truck goes from point A, let's say from Bombay to Delhi, and delivers freight. On the way back, it's coming back empty. Now, thanks to digital freight technologies, you can find freight. It's almost like Uber for trucking, and that is pretty big. Right now, when freight is delivered to your doorstep, let's say Sanjay lives in Chicago, and he consumes something that was manufactured, let's say in Japan. The freight comes in a container in LA port and gets to Sanjay's doorstep. There are many people and many verticals along the way that touch that freight, from shipping and freight movers to intermodal freight processors to warehouse handlers to truck fleets, and all the data that is coming out is now being used to ensure that that freight is delivered to Sanjay as promised. And all of this is driven by digitization. So we don't realize how digitization has completely reshaped global economies, and here is an example of Beyond BRIC, so all of us, BITians, and anybody who is Indian has benefited from the rise of BRIC economies, Brazil, Russia, India, China. But now, after having a fantastic run for the past 20, 30 years, BRIC economies are slowing down, but a new wave of countries are coming in. Countries such as, Vietnam, Philippines, Mexico, Turkey, etc. And these countries are now the next frontier of growth, the final frontier being Africa. But right now, we're going to experience tremendous growth in these markets, and as a result of which, a lot of commercial vehicle activities and designing is happening around the demand from these markets. Rise of value trucks as a result of which. So because the BRIC markets and next 11 markets are now rising, new kinds of trucks are getting created. And I'll tell you, for example, for us here in North America, the kind of trucks we see in our roads here are considered to be premium trucks by global definition. And then the trucks that used to be sold in India, like Tata Motors, Tata trucks of the 80s and even 90s, were considered low-cost trucks. But now a new class of trucks are emerging called value trucks. These trucks are priced a little bit higher than low-cost trucks, have bigger engines, better human-machine interfacing, better comfort and convenience, a little bit better safety, priced a little bit higher. And that's the reason why you have Bharat-Benz, you have Volvo Eicher, all these different Western OEMs creating value trucks for the emerging markets. And that is the fastest growing commercial vehicle segment in the world. As you can see, growing from 18% to 31%. Over 2015 to 2025 period. Another very important thing is platformization. As a result of globalization, we are now seeing the same truck platforms that are used in North America being used in Europe, being used in Asia, and that is on the rise. Autonomous driving, needless to say, there's a lot of press ink spent on talking about how autonomous driving will start delivering unparalleled levels of safety and efficiency in commercial vehicle industry and in logistics industries. And as a result of which, vehicle dealerships are evolving. If I were to ask you, where does the dealer make most money? Is it selling new trucks, used trucks? Is it selling parts and services? Where? And conventional wisdom will lead us to believe that a truck dealer or a commercial vehicle or even a vehicle dealer today makes more money selling new vehicles. I will challenge that. In fact, they make least money selling new vehicles, most money selling used vehicles or parts or services. And digitization is creating opportunities for them because they are now being able to find more foot traffic in their dealership, demanding greater levels of used trucks or greater levels of online parts and services or other kind of services. But these are some of the changes that are happening, as a result of which we see that in the global logistics industry, the areas which are value-added services, trade facilitation, warehousing, and transportation, if you see how they were in 2015 versus how they are today in 2020, transportation is the only segment which is experiencing growth. And now, and Sanjay talked about warehousing, absolutely, that's another sector. I have a friend who runs the commercial business of Prologis, Sanjay, and I was talking to him the other day, and he was saying that demand is through the roof globally, thanks to COVID. As if it was not only happening back before COVID, and now it's further accelerated. And so there is evidence of that. So if you were to kind of find the lowest common denominator of all of these things, if you were to join the dots, what's really happening is digital transformation in the logistics industry. And I'll give you an example. This is my final slide. Walmart in the past used to charge or penalize its vendors if their truck would reach the bay late, right? Because that had supply chain implications. Now keep in mind, people think Walmart is a retailer. Walmart is the biggest and most ruthless supply chain company in the world. That's what they are. Hence, they are a successful retailer. So they used to penalize any truck that would reach the bay late. Now, starting 2015, Walmart has started penalizing vendors if their trucks reach the bay sooner. The idea is to get that truck at the bay on time, every time. It's just like when you land at the airport and the flight has landed early, we're all sitting in the plane, the pilot is frustrated, the passenger is frustrated. We want to get to the bay on time, every time. The same thing is happening here. So how do we do that? In the past, telematics was a technology that would enable that. But now, if you add traffic predicting software, sensor and terrain mapping, weather mapping, ITS, social media integration, all of a sudden it's now possible to get that truck at that bay on time, every time. And telematics and digital technologies are enabling that. As a result of which, the most fundamental shift that is happening in the global commercial vehicle logistics and supply chain industries is in the past, success was measured based on how many assets you owned. If you are a fleet manager, the number of trucks you had, the more successful your business. If we are a telematics company, the more subscribers we had, the more successful our business. But that was yesterday. Today, success is measured on how many transactions you own. Every time there's a transaction enabled by that vehicle, people want to own that transaction. Great example, in Fleet Complete, we have an Uber for trucking kind of solution where we match freight to outside sources. And every time there's a transaction in which we fill that truck or the trailer, we take a cut of that revenue. But that's about owning transactions. But that's not the future either. The future is owning interactions. Every time that commercial vehicle interacts with the outside world and the outside world interacts with that commercial vehicle, we want to own that interaction. What we do with that data, we'll figure out along the way. But that's where the industry's focus is right now. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Aloke. Thank you.
Wow, what an informative session, man. A lot of questions, I mean, particularly specifics on what you said are ringing in my mind. Maybe I'll ask during the Q&A session. Thanks, Sandeep, for walking us through. Well, in our next segment, let me introduce a very, very distinguished and illustrious alumni of BIT, Mr. Pawan Bhageria of 1979 and 83 batch mechanical engineering. He is currently the president of Tata Technologies and board member of Tata HAL, presently located at Bangalore. Well, under his stewardship, let me tell you, the technology roadmap is devised, implemented, and monitored for the entire Tata enterprise, and he is responsible for business sustenance and growth strategic business unit. We are very fortunate to have him amongst us, and he is going to present his thoughts on future of emerging technologies. Over to you, Pawanji.
Alok, if you don't mind, I want to add to your introduction.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
I
I have very little knowledge about his outreach.
You won't know this, but Pawan Bhageria was the undisputed, consistent topper of our batch. I think that was the term we used.
It shows.
Hey, Sanjay.
After semester.
The depth of knowledge.
Several of us tried very hard. We might have come close, but not Pawan not appear on the top of the list. So over to you.
Let me tell you, as a prep, yesterday I had an interaction with Pawan, and I was blown away by the depth of knowledge and what he shared. But that was me and him. Let him share with the entire group. Let us all be benefited. Over to you, Pawanji.
Thank you, Alok. Thank you, Sanjay, and thank you, Sandeep. You have made my job a lot simpler. First of all, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thanks, BITOSA Global, Arup, and entire team for providing me an opportunity to be amongst you today and share my thoughts. My topic is, future of technology. And I just want to share with you that when I passed out from BIT Mehsra in mechanical engineering, we went to Dr. C.V. Mishra to tell him that at least show a computer to us. We never saw a computer till we passed from the campus. And then he said that I'm going to have computer introduced in some way from next year onwards. So we passed out without seeing a computer. So that was our starting point. Now, today, what I have tried to do is that, first of all, let us look at what are the technologies which are impacting the world. In last 8-10 years, what has happened is we have seen disruptive technologies which have come in the horizon. They are really transforming people and life. And lot of, new technology gets introduced every day, but some of the technology you hear every day and some of the technologies die. So I strongly believe that future of technology depends on the lives it touches. It makes things easier for people and also creates value and wealth for the businesses. So that's what actually we will examine in today's this thing. I picked up some examples which are different from the normally we talk about. So let's go over it. So first of all, let us look at, so this is a slide which talks about the potential of technologies which are currently on the horizon. Some of them are missing, but if you see from a value perspective, so the mobile internet, which everyone talks about, has a potential of $3 to $10 trillion by 2025. Automation and knowledge work, where we can bring in your robotic automation and AI and everything, $5 to $6 or $7 trillion. Internet of Things, if you see, it is 2 to 6, and the wide variation is because Internet of Things, how much application we make of Internet of Things will decide how much value we'll create out of this technology, and that is what was smaller. Cloud technology, advanced robotics, and then if you go autonomous and near autonomous, energy storage technology is again coming from the point of view of EV and renewable energy area. And then we have got 3D printing coming up, advanced material coming up. So this is the kind of landscape. And so if you see, the potential is huge, and those who are looking for career and jobs and all that can easily identify the technology areas which are going to help people and businesses as well. Moving on. So I chose actually that, okay, how India is exploiting. So this is one of the way to look at, how India is exploiting the technology. And I was lucky to be part of the Digital India inauguration by Prime Minister in Delhi as part of NASSCOM. And, I kind of got an idea of what they are trying to do for it. And if you look at some of the numbers, they will tell you the story. So if you see the number of smartphones, they have at least gone 5 times. If you see the total number of internet, this is all in India numbers, more than twice. Then if you look at the cashless transactions, 9 times. And if you look at the data usage, it's more than 100 times, so or close to 100 times. And if you look at by 2025, how people are looking at, because at the end of the day, when technology gets used in different spheres of life, they will finally converge into a couple of industries from where the value will come. And so if you look at maximum impact will be financial services, which is almost $170 billion. And this will include all the kind of payment gateways, the special services which come in, and those kind of things. Then the other bubble which you see is very special, jobs and skills. Now, as you see during COVID, people have started using technology, and they are doing jobs for which they used to travel hours and hours through traffic, now doing almost the same job with equal effectiveness or close to equal effectiveness using technology. So there is going to be a huge opportunity, different kind of skills, surveillance job, and talk of various type of jobs which are going to there, which will be coming through technology. The other area is agriculture. So today, most of the rural India is not connected or now connecting. So through Digital India, government is trying to connect and practically disrupting every stakeholder in that area to provide services which were never imagined by any villager. And then similarly, education. We just talked about, now schools are talking about, colleges are talking about, special institutes. So if you see, that's $50 billion. Logistics, just Sandeep talked about, and that's why I'll spend some time, but the amount of money you can see there. And the retail, and this retail bubble will become much bigger as we go. Moving on to a couple of examples. So if you, and before that, the whole Digital India is having 3 main focus areas. One is digital infrastructure, which need to reach to every citizen. And that is why you will see fiber optic reaching to the panchayats, to the individuals in rural area of India. So it's really, really connecting the whole country, using the facilities to govern and also provide services on demand. So a lot of things for which you used to go to government offices don't need to go, and you can work through internet. And then digital empowerment, using the various services available from digital. Like today, a villager can use payment gateways which are of choice. They can access to their bank account. They can do a lot of stuff. So it's going to expand. Now, let us take one area, which is, we look at. So this agriculture, what the government is doing. If you look at the typical farming cycle, starting from financing and risk mitigation to planting, and then harvesting and selling, there are a number of platforms which have been created to support And then if you see the stakeholders which are there. So today, a farmer can sell from the crop to anywhere in India using the platform. They can get information about weather, soil, manure, and various other things through the portal. They can use IoT mechanisms to monitor the health of the soil, the humidity of soil, and only supply optimum amount of water, which is so scarce, and still get the full crop. So things of that kind are being enabled, and that is providing a huge thing. And below that, if you see, all these transactions result into huge data, which is being taken to data lakes and then analyzed and all that. And it will provide deep insight in terms of where we should focus and how to ensure that the rural agriculture really makes progress. And the programs which you have heard about, Soil Card and Rishi Bajar, and then Meteorological in India. So all that is being enabled. But if you see that the technology has been used to the hilt to connect the agriculture sector of India, which is really needing reforms and transformation. And this is how the technology is moving. Moving to the healthcare, again, the same thing. Very few doctors and medical facilities in rural and remote places. Using technology, the government is creating telemedicine platform where hospitals and physicians can be connected. The same person can use the digital front-end apps to order medicine, tests, and all that, and they can be, done from comfort of the house. They can also apply insurance, and then the whole analysis of data, and then you can plan the preventive healthcare for India using this platform. Now, these are all realities, and if you see, most of the technology which I listed in the first slide are being used to enable all these items. Moving to the next one. So here I won't spend time. Sandeep talked about the logistics and its future. So this is also being enabled. And then education. So if you see, there are a number of government schemes which have come up to again reach education to the last mile. And technology is really helping and moving forward. So this is some of the things where Digital India is making a difference. There are many more, but I thought I'll bring out some examples to share with you so that we can appreciate how technology is changing life. Let us take a different area. So the other area where these technologies are going to be used, I think the usage right now is limited, but going to be used is manufacturing. So let us see what is happening in the manufacturing space. So here, if you see in smart manufacturing, so this is something which is Industry 4, which is being talked about. And if you see this particular diagram shows, so basically manufacturing facilities used to be there, which were physical facility, but through the technology now you can use sensors, collect data, process them to make the manufacturing cost efficient, quality better, and track every material. And then to add to it, you can have smart supply chain, you can have excellent customer experience using technology. And the product development part also, if you see, that's all digitized these days, and people are trying to reduce the prototyping to the minimum so that they can reduce the development time of products using the technology which is there. So all across, digital technology is making a difference. If we look at, in manufacturing technology, practically every aspect of manufacturing technology is now digitized. And so there are people who are able to create the full plant on the computer. You are able to, simulate every operation, the whole manufacturing line, and you can see for yourself before the physical plant is built, what all you need to change to ensure that the plant is, going to work, and there will be less disruption and less repeat or waste of capital money, which is going to go. So that's how, this area is changing. Now, all this actually is being called, you will hear a lot about digital twins. So what is happening is now physical and digital world is coming together. So in the product development side, these days, you can have the full car made in the digital form. You can see the car completely like it will look physical, and then you have a physical car. So in the digital space, you are able to do almost all the validations and testing and all that, and then you are able to, go for production so that you are able to launch the cars in the shortest time. So I can share with you that earlier we used to have about 300 prototypes before a car could be taken out of the company for customer usage. Now, you are able to do it for about 50, and the plan is to get to single digit and to zero. So that's the kind of difference it is making. And the same is true with the virtual production as well, and where you can have whole plant and then you can have physical, plant built, which is already optimized. And this is in use. And similarly now, these technologies are not only limited to the new plants which are coming up, but if you have an old plant which was not digitized, you can digitize such plants. You can create a digital model, create a digital twin, do all the optimization using computer softwares, and then you are able to move forward. So that's something which is providing all the, it's really transforming the way industry used to run and build. Moving forward, so a lot of people talk about connected vehicle and autonomous vehicle. So I'm not going to talk about it. All I want to talk about here is that there are so many streams, be it operation, remote services, safety, security. So it is going to create a lot of jobs. It is going to create a lot of business opportunities, and it is here to stay, and it is going to be a big ecosystem. So we need to really watch out this particular area. And the other thing which I just want to bring up here is that earlier when OEMs used to talk about cars, what used to happen is everything which was physical components, they used to be, core to the OEM, and they will be very secretive about it. Now all that is getting commoditized. And when we started, there used to be 5% electronics and software in the vehicle. Now it is 50 to 55%, and same is the cost ratio. So a car has 50-55% of the cost as electronics. And so if you see intangible, infotainment and other stuff, those are the places where money is being spent. And that's where we need to look at in the automotive industry. Of course, a lot of other changes are happening, which we can talk about. So finally, if you look at the way I see it, there are technologies which are available. We need to use these technologies to find solutions for the human race. It also presents a big opportunity for innovation in all the areas. And those organizations, startups, and individuals who will be successfully innovating, they are going to be winning the race. And future of technology will depend on how we impact life. So thank you. That's what I wanted to share.
I'm just thinking how much information we can absorb in this 10-15 minutes. I'm just blown away. I can't express, We need to have probably one segment for one of these, technology areas.
In fact, each can be spent an hour also. Just trying to keep time.
Hours, and we can expand. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Aloke.
Are bound by that 1 hour limitation. So let's jump into the QA sessions. I don't know, Chandra can correct me. Yesterday, I saw there were some 60 questions. I would love to have it as an interactive session, but how much time we have? Maybe 10-12 minutes. Let me be the spokesperson of all of you and ask each of the panelists a few questions, very pointed questions, and let's see from there where we can go. The first question, which I'm asking for Dr. Sanjay Rishi, I know you touched upon this. What changes you envisage with the people feeling more comfortable with the office space layout post-COVID era?
Yeah, so there's a tremendous amount of work. No surprise, some of these things are fairly straightforward, like elevators that are marked up, especially in high rises. As people arrive, there's staggering of folks coming in, grids in the elevator, floors that are marked for people to go so you're not passing people, and maintaining social distancing, conference rooms that have been thinned out. The immediate response that we're seeing our clients and actually helping them with around workspaces is blocking off certain spaces so there is social distancing. So those things are fairly straightforward. Going forward, and I mentioned this as I was speaking, air quality, just things like even ultraviolet, to make sure that, because this is all about making people comfortable in the workspace. Everyone's concerned and worried when they come to workspaces, and the obligation is to get people into workspaces safe and get them back safely to their homes. There's a lot of concern and work around public transportation, and then smart technologies. I think Pawan alluded to some of this, but things like smartphone applications that allow visibility of health, of any notifications, of reservations, of conference rooms, spaces. So there's a lot of work that's gone in already, and people are implementing a lot.
Yeah, I mean, about the social distancing, like I believe 6 feet and all that. I have seen some of the call centers in India. They just sit by the side in a row and all that. I think that has to change.
Yeah, and I mean, in the U.S., we're behind Asia in some ways, and Europe in terms of being hit with COVID and then starting to recover from it. But if I just look at the lessons learned in Asia and EMEA and our business, the office occupancy has gone up to 50, 60, 70% or more, and people are trying to manage that through staggered work schedules, bringing people in certain days. But social distancing is going to be here to stay. De-densification is a reality because there is no vaccine that's visible over the next few months. If you listen to the press, while there is a lot of work going in. So I think this is something that'll stay with us.
Yeah. I mean, let's hope that we come out with the vaccine and we can all get back to our respective jobs and all that and be safe.
Yeah, one question that I got was around intelligent buildings, and I might expand that to talk about resilient buildings, because resiliency beyond just business continuity is a topic of investment and discussion that has bubbled up a lot over the COVID phase, and that is sensing, detecting everything from air quality to maintenance to predictive maintenance. So all the things that you would think about in terms of an intelligent building, which have been around for a while, but now resiliency on how do you bounce back from all of that, and how do you start to communicate with people that are coming into offices is critical. So communication is extremely important to make people feel like they can contribute and innovate and create.
Right. Okay, I'm just going in a round robin process. The next question is for Sandeep. To boost up logistics, what technology advancements are being made in trucks and buses? And we talk about the autonomous driving or driver-assisted technology will come soon. Can you walk us through briefly?
Yeah, absolutely, Aloke. I think if we were to understand where technology is going, we need to follow smart money. Where is smart money going? If you look into commercial vehicles, trucks or buses, smart money used to go under the hood, like in the past. So engines, transmissions, axles, brakes, etc. Not anymore. Now smart money, as Pawan mentioned, is going inside the cabin, where driver health wellness technologies or technologies that connect the driver to the vehicle, so human machine interfacing. For example, in North America, I don't know how many of you know, in the heavy duty truck market, till about 5 years ago, 90% of those trucks used to have manual transmissions. Fast forward to 2020, now 90% of trucks have automatic transmissions in the heavy duty segment. And that change has happened because of a certain reason. And that reason, once again, is the human being the driver. The average age of truck drivers in North America is in the wrong side of 40s. It's an age milestone in life from where you start seriously thinking about health, wellness, and well-being. And there's a driver shortage, huge driver shortage here. Not a lot of young people want to get into this vocation because you spend so much time away from home as a truck driver. So they're trying to attract young people, and young people have a tough time managing manual transmissions, and older people find it easier with automatic transmissions. So I'm just giving examples of how advanced technologies are coming inside a truck or the bus, driven by human factors, no more by engineering factors. There is that. And the other thing is, you talked about autonomous vehicles. Well, you know what? Autonomous vehicles are not coming here in the commercial vehicle segment tomorrow. It's going to be a long march. By some estimates, by 2030, only 5 to 10% of commercial vehicles will feature fully autonomous technology, which means driver won't be in the cabin. There are some vocations where they apply, like mines and ports, where you have a dedicated route. There are not enough variables in the highway or the streets. So you can do that, and that's happening already. If you go to the mines of South Africa or Australia, you'll already see autonomous vehicles. If you go to the farms of Indiana, you will see autonomous tractors and fields. So that's happening already. I see the demand for autonomous driving coming once again from the driver. If the vehicle is not autonomously driven, or sorry, if the vehicle is, let's say, autonomously driven, what else can the driver do when the driver is not driving? The driver can find freight along the way through a digital platform, through his phone, just like the technology you talked about, Uber for trucking. Just like Uber connects a vehicle or to capacity, Uber for trucking can connect a truck to capacity. So when the driver is not driving, he or she can find freight along the way. So I see this as yin and yang, one driving demand for another. If there's autonomous driving, it drives demand for digital freight. If there's digital freight, it drives demand for autonomous driving. So that's how it's going to play out. And it's going to be, like I said, once again, to reiterate, it's going to be a long march. I don't expect autonomous vehicles, driverless vehicles in the commercial vehicle industry anytime in the next 5 to 10 years in our highways. It's going to be, I'm going to venture that guess, and I'm going to say it's going to be at least 10 years before you start seeing meaningful volumes there.
Yeah, and we have to have good roads and all that before the infrastructure. I mean,
absolutely. I mean, it's the same thing, right? You know, the technology is there, regulations are there, but is the demand there? And the demand will only be there when the fleet manager says, "Hey, I'm paying a driver today, let's say X $1,000 per month, to be in that cabin. Why do I pay again another $5,000 or $6,000, $10,000 more for autonomous truck when I'm paying the driver?" So there has to be a substantial business case. And, you know, we live in, you know, free market capital world. And if there's demand, there will be supply. Right now, I'm saying there is not enough demand coming from the fleet side. And that will change it out towards the end of this 10-year period.
Yeah, thanks. Next question is for Pawanji. I've just clubbed it up on some of the questions which I received. In which component manufacturing, service, assembly, including OEM, new entrepreneur must try to enter in the automotive sector in current scenario with a long-term view? Why Indian OEMs are also not able to penetrate even in the Indian subcontinent market?
Thanks, Alok. So this is a great question. I think let us start from today's supply chain situation. So today, what we are finding out that a large number of components come from China. And even if assembly is happening, the core components come from China. And if there is any issue with China, then you have your supply chain getting disrupted. Once, when I was in GM, at that point in time, this Fukushima happened. And during that time, I remember sitting in, discussion rooms discussing that there used to be a number of companies which used to provide a particular type of chip. Nobody else manufactures it. And so the whole, production of vehicles and all that, while the demand was there, you could not produce. So I think when we want to select components, then one is that we need to look at the supply chain and what are the areas where we need to de-risk, especially if we are getting them from outside and there are geopolitical risks. And so we need to choose those components is one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is that right now, as I said, that most of the mechanical components are getting commoditized. And as a result of that, while you can get business, but you won't get margin. So if you really want to be in the business and make margins also, then you will have to look at areas where many people are not there, or you are adding value through your innovation. And so those areas are primarily the non-tangible, intangible areas, more into electronics, embedded software, and those are the areas which we need to really look at and then identify the potential. So that's another one which is there. So I would recommend that study the supply chain, whichever industry you want to get in, look at the risks, and then identify where you want to play to de-risk that, and you will find a lot of receptivity and you can make money. The other is look at the technology which is there and do something which is not commodity. Otherwise, you will be finding it difficult to make money. And for entrepreneurs, it's very important that they go well and have margins to move forward, because the pockets are very shallow.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this private entrepreneurs and OEMs. I'll just ask one related question, like challenges for this artificial intelligence procurement by government and public sector. How do you solve that? I mean, any concern about the data management, security and all that?
Alok, not very clear. Say it again.
So I'm talking about the procurement of all this technology, AI procurement by government and public sector. How do we safeguard it from the security, data management, data breach, all that?
See, Alok, that has now become an industry in itself. And these days, you hear that, okay, somebody has broken into the vehicle system and, stopped the vehicle and all that kind of thing. So these days, what is happening is that security is of paramount importance. And whatever technology you buy, for that, there will be standard operating procedure from a security perspective, which you have to follow. Otherwise, you don't exist. Like take the other industry, which say aerospace. Now in aerospace, if you look at, for everything there has to be certification. And I'm talking about the industry which has been built now, it is 30, 40 years old. The procedures still exist that, if somebody is doing a maintenance service on a particular aircraft, on a particular component or an aggregate, he need to have a valid certificate of that particular day. So that's the kind of, procedures which will set up to ensure safety and robustness of the maintenance. Same way, when we are talking about procurement of these sensitive technologies, there will be procedures which are going to be there, which will, those who will qualify, comply, and get certified will be the ones who will be supplying. So that can be another consideration whether you want to be there. And if you want to be there, then you will have to spend enough attention to ensure that you are complying and providing. I hope I'm answering the question.
Good. I mean, I wish I can continue asking questions, but we are bound by the time. And there are many questions which have come about the post-COVID era and how the real estate and all other things are going to shape up. I will go to Neeraj for this in his concluding remark. But before that, let me tell you, I have to thank the entire BITOSA family. I have to thank Dr. Sanjay, Rishi, Sandeep Kar, and Pawan ji, and Neeraj ji, and each and every one of you personally for taking time off from your busy schedule. And remember, this is Saturday. You have to do a lot of things, and let me not ignore thanking the backend team for hosting this seminar, and I have to thank BITOSA Global and Silicon Valley chapter. And my friend Arup, I have to take his name. He's my batchmate, my buddy, and we have been following each other for the last 40 years. Now, over to you, Neeraj ji. I know you have a lot of information about the real estate and the regulations and all that, what's happening in India. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Alok, and what a wonderful session. Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you, Pawan, Sandeep Kar. Very, very high content. Quick question to one each to all of you in regard to the context of India, because we are talking about a majority of people here. First is Sanjay. As I see going forward, there is a lot of micro living that's going to come here in terms of real estate. Small, modular, little healthy spaces, because there's a lot of decompressing going to happen as well. And you know how Indians are very OCD, obsessed with real estate. We talked about this the other day. So you would want to put a paper on some policy or some guidance on that as in the Indian context, that how do we manage the underbelly, how we manage the micro living in India, which is a huge market. It's healthy, smarter, safer way to do that. The second question and thoughts is around Sandeep. You talked so much about the logistics. And since again, we are in India, I was wondering, with all this freight and logistics, how does it impact and influence, and what contribution the Indian Railway can bring about doing it? Because to my mind, I think we missed that boat some 30, 40 years ago. India did not go the railway way. We went the road, we didn't go that far. We went the airplane way, which is fantastic. But I cannot see India grow without the railways in terms of both freight and transportation. So that's a question and thought for you. You may have to answer now or later, whatever. And Pawan, again, emerging technology. भाई एक चीज मुझे कहनी है इस बात में, इंडिया में the one subject that doesn't get addressed that many times is about the MSME sector, the micro, small, medium enterprises. You know, and you know, so in terms of the adoption of technology that we all have and can have, what is it that we can really do for the MSME sector at a very cost-effective manner so that they can adopt it and become more efficient? They are the largest employer, so we need to do that. And the skill development for the migrant labor. So these are two thoughts that I bring to the emerging technology to bring India in relevance. And in conclusion, Aloke, if I may say, I would welcome the entire BITOSA Global community who's listening and will listen to many webinars. We need a lot of ideas. We need a lot of ideas about panel discussions, subjects for panel discussion. What is it that we should be talking about? And that's number one. And number two is we need a lot of volunteers. Please, please come forward. And I'm going to give you an email, Chandrasekhar Shah and his shekhar.bitmesra, shekhar.bitmesra@gmail.com. Please send your ideas for future webinars. Please put your name as people who want to talk about. All of you bring a lot of expertise. We want more and more people, new faces, you know, younger people, all kind of diversity to make it bigger and better and all that. And thank you, wonderful. I had a great time. By the time we were having all this, I had 2 single malts.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Neeraj. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, and all of you, fantastic.
Thank you.